Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, VSW Stoner. We're here with another great episode of the VSW podcast. Tonight it's going to be a big one, folks. But let's backtrack a little bit. I don't know, not too long ago, I started seeing blips, blurbs, writings, scratchings on the wall about something called Kill City Cup. Um, Very cool idea, wrestling show, super show. I don't know. It's very hard to explain. Um, you really have to watch it. I can't put it into words. Take your favorite wrestling promotion, times it by Mortal Kombat, bring in, I don't know, just it's really hard to describe. It's called, though, like I said, Kill City Cup. You can find it on YouTube. It's free to watch. It's also being shown other places. I'm gonna post links in the description on this interview. Um, so you'll be able to find all that. But anyways, I started watching this and I fell in love instantly. And I started seeing some of the talent on this show, and this was someone that I saw, and immediately, I saw the mask, I saw the face, I love the horror. I was like, Mason X, I gotta talk to this guy. I want to talk to him. I want to get to know him. I like these kind of wrestlers. I like these kind of you know, people that perform with in the wrestling realm. That are on the darker side, are dark characters. And I did some interesting, a little bit of research, and I found out, this dude, he's been around, for quite some time. Starting, back in 2008, and he wrestled to 2014, and then he had some kind of an incident, and we'll let him tell you about that. And then he came back in 2017, which is an amazing story in itself, and he's been working currently till then. And he's had some very great notable matches. Ricky Starks, I mean, that's a great match. Derek Shorey back in 018, I mean, that's a great match. I mean, dude also makes masks, custom masks. I mean, this guy does it all. We're gonna post all those links within there. But you know what? Let's wait no further. Let's give Mason X a ring. Um, and see where we're at.
Hello?
Hello, Mason X.
Speaking.
Welcome to the VSW podcast. I'm the host, Versace Stoner. I welcome you on my show. I thank you for accepting the invite to come on and do this interview.
I'm glad to do it. I really appreciate you having me.
I was just telling the fans, I really gained notice of you. I started seeing, blips and blips, and then I finally watched the whole thing, and I just fell in love with Kill City Cup. And I started seeing, the characters in that, and just, the monstrosity, and the just overall difference that just makes it stand out from anything I've ever watched in the wrestling world. The brutality, the Mortal Kombat kind of vibe mixed with your favorite promotion, just really great. And I found you, of course, and so I invited you on. But like we were doing research and talking, and turns out you've been in the game a little bit. It's not your first year in the rodeo here. Um, I got you, all the way back. Like, I mean, wow, like 2008. I'm kind of even like thinking, like, I'm trying to think, like, back '08. I think I went and saw Lil Wayne that year. He was really hot. But yeah, so you started back in '08. Um, Tell me, what got you in this?
Well, I've always been into wrestling. My father was very into wrestling. Well, my father figure, and so I actually got the backyard wrestling back in the '90s. Did that for several years, and then when I joined the army, part of that was to serve my country, but part of it was actually to get enough money to go to a wrestling school and get trained. Which as soon as I got out of basic training and came back from my first deployment in Iraq, that was one of the very first things I did was I signed up for a wrestling school in Lampasas, Texas, under this guy by the name of Rick Steele, aka the American Patriot. I wish I'd done some more research on the guy back in the day, but that wasn't this fraught with information on schools back then.
Wow. So
Uh,
you went into you really went in to a real military. You did your you joined the military, and then even after all that physicalness, now you want to get into the wrestling.
yes, the wrestling training was interesting because I was still in the Army when I started. So
Yeah.
I would get up about 5 in the morning, go on Fort Hood, where I was stationed when I was stateside. We
Yeah.
do our Army PT in the morning at 6:30. Get done that, work a normal day, drive an hour to Lampasas, and then this school was outside in Texas in the
Yeah.
summer. So we train. We initially used to run like a quarter mile or something like that, do push-ups, sit-ups, and then very much the old school way of doing it, taking tons of bumps. And this ring was old. It's older than I am, and I'm getting up there myself. And so I do that, and then I go to army work the next day. Um, Definitely was interesting.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean that just sounds. I'm just trying to like think. Like I'm thinking, like like I know a lot of independent guys. I know a lot of guys in wrestling, and starting out, it's very kind of sometimes if you're not into athletics or you're not into that kind of regimen, it's very hard to get into kind of that discipline that it takes to become an athlete. I had to do it when I did boxing. I went into the route of boxing when I got out of high school. You know, I was 5'8", 156 pounds. No wrestling school would even look at me. Nobody wanted little guys back then. They didn't exist. You had to be a certain size. You had to be a certain look. Today's day is a little bit different. The smaller guy kind of can get in there, but back then they didn't want. I went to Killer Kowalski's school. They kind of laughed me out of there. I went into the boxing world though, and even with that, I had to kind of gain this discipline. You're gonna wake up, you're gonna train, you're gonna eat right. So you had like kind of almost an advantage going into this school with you, already been through boot camp. You've already been through the training. You've done more than probably most have done already. So you're already very well disciplined. So you must have just been a machine in training.
Training was initially physical mechanics were very easy for me and came quickly. Um, I think I came into wrestling training at I used to be 6 degrees, and I came in there at like 238 pounds, very solid. The psychology obviously took more time because backyard wrestling doesn't really do crap for psychology, and I never had any pro experience before that. So that's where I really got to grow. Uh, the only hard part was like trying to get more actual under my belt because I was still in the army, uh, every day active duty. So
Yeah.
I couldn't
And
just take
obviously
any
that's
booking I
coming.
wanted.
Yeah, and that's coming before anything else.
Oh yeah,
So
they didn't want you to leave in a 250-mile radius of the base. So your choices of where you could wrestle on the weekend without like really fighting and get approval, which they didn't like to give you, was really hard. So it limited me to really just Texas those first few years.
yep, yep. So you work the Texas states. That's a great place, might I add. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestling history there. I mean, look at they're coming out with that Von Erich movie. They're from Texas. Um, it has a rich history down there that I don't think a lot of the Northeast really know too much about. I mean, unless what we've seen, through TV. But in the territory days, you only knew your own territory. And a lot of the action down south in Texas took place in those territory days. But yeah, so you work the scene down there, but then now your military does come to an end. I'm guessing at some point.
Yes, it did. So after my third deployment to Iraq in 2011, I came back, got out of the service after completing 7 years. And at that point, I moved back to Maine probably about a year after doing one more year in Texas, getting to really start expanding to the limits of Texas, going as far as Laredo Wrestling Alliance, uh, doing stuff in Waco,
Wow.
Fort Worth, Austin a couple of times. town called how we call the rest. Just at least trying to expand myself, get myself experience that hard hitting Texas style because it's very hard hitting. Not necessarily the flashiest stuff, or at least at that point in time, and big reactions, more story. Um, Not about flippy stuff. I love that stuff. It's technically impressive. It's more just smash mouth, punch in the face, power moves, or at least the areas I was working.
Yep, yeah. No, I mean it is a backtrack. I mean, wow. I mean that's quite impressive. A 7 year, military, three duty tours. I gotta say, thank you for your service. That's really impressive. And a lot of people, that's just really great. And I don't get a lot of servicemen. I haven't got a lot of servicemen on here that have, worked in the military. But I said it's just a great thing. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember, a lot of that. Those Iraq wars and watching it on news and being afraid because I had friends that went there, and I had kids and they were a little bit older, a little bit younger that went in there, and I just remember those times being kind of like dreadful kind of in a way, and just a lot of uncertainty. But you got through all that, and that's tremendous in itself. Plus you came out with a wrestling career like you said that you made a name all throughout Texas. That's quite impressive. Still doing that. Also, still being active in between the three tours. You must have like went out, came back. Did your couple of shows. And you still, I mean, how was that? Just I want to just backtrack for a sec. How was that like mentality of you're in an active fight in combat, and then all of a sudden you get back and you're in a ring.
Well, the ring was really a great way to get a lot of stress relief because day to day military, you could get really frustrated. Because like when you're stateside, I know this isn't the glamour part of military, but you don't want to be bureaucratic. It's
Yeah.
like in between the training you do to prep you for war. And I started really making some headway with my wrestling career, and then everything got derailed. After my first deployment, I was literally on guard duty. I got released for an hour to go home, have lunch. My wife at the time. We're literally at the last light before you leave post. A dude in a pickup truck fell asleep at the wheel and plowed into us at about 40 miles per hour, and it fractured my L5 vertebrae. And
Oh.
I obviously couldn't wrestle for a while and wasn't even truly sure if I was going to be able to stay in the military, let alone wrestle again. Um, it didn't prevent me from walking or anything, but it looked like somebody had punched a mirror, small cracks all throughout the
Yeah, yeah, and I mean,
from that.
obviously, being active in military, that's just one thing. But it's one thing doing that fractured and injured, and I don't know what the rules and regulations of what they want as a soldier is, but I know there is some kind of injuries that happen that are like, nope, you're done, and they'll just they'll release you on good terms.
Yeah, I mean, if it had been a more severe fracture, because again, they were very fine fractures. It wasn't like a
Yeah,
really
it
really
wasn't a
broken.
major fracture. It was all just little small kinds of yeah.
They obviously thought I must have been good because a few months later they shipped me off to Iraq for the second deployment, which that flight over was very uncomfortable because I'm still healing. And when you fly over on a civilian plane till you get to about Germany. Then you come into Kuwait and they switch over to a big military plane, and then you have to put on all your body armor junk. And it's wicked uncomfortable wearing hard ceramic plate body armor when your spine is just all jacked up. It made that
Especially
year
sitting in
over
a
there
plane,
very.
yeah, I could only imagine.
And that was the other part that's would slow me down too. Is you build up momentum for a whole year, right? You're really going to town. You're hitting the shows. You're starting to make headway, and then you're gone for a whole year. And it's like anybody else. You're out of limelight. People forget about you. And a
Yeah,
year off, cooling your
couple months, and
heels.
then people forget the name. They're like, wait, oh, who was that guy? Oh yeah, well, we haven't seen him anymore. He must have moved on, and people forget, and then all of a sudden you come back, and it's like, oh, I got to rebuild my kind of repertoire and my fan base and my crowd, and
Like you don't go back to square one, but you definitely get knocked back a couple pegs.
yeah, and you're just hoping that your next run's gonna be successful. It's not gonna be that that run that you do that everybody's just like, oh, we're not interested in this guy anymore. Um, but you were working a different character at the time. Was that true?
Yes, it was. My initial trainer. gave me the name the Lord Sean McBain. It lasted about a show, just because it wasn't a good fit for what I was presenting. We switched to Sean Killian because I was tagging with a guy by the name of Irish Red. We were trying to come up with a name for me. My real first name is Sean. And we're sitting there drinking a George Killian's Irish Red beer. He's like, well, I'm Irish Red. You're Sean. Why don't you be Sean Killian? And so I was like, well, hell, that works. So Irish Red, Sean Killian, we became the Celtic Destroyers, two Irish American dudes who really like to rumble and brawl, and it worked for us. We started really getting some traction, and I ran that gimmick for years.
Kind of like some modern bushwhacking.
Yeah, it was fun. We just really like to piss people off. I tell people, I tell a little kid in the audience, I hope he enjoyed working the rest of his life for minimum wage at a gas station. The usual fun stuff. I tell an old person
Yeah,
they
yeah,
crack
you
their
get to
hip.
bait the crowd, and you just get to be rowdy. It's fun.
Yeah, it was great.
And that's an interesting story. Getting the name like that, it's fun though. And so you ran with that for a while. Then you got injured, and what? One day you just came back a new name.
Yeah, so what happened? I came back to Maine, which is where I'm originally from. I wrestled in Independent Wrestling Entertainment, IWE. They've since closed. I did that for about a year.
Yeah.
Still is Sean Killian. And oh my gosh, I was starting to really make headway here in Maine, my home state. Even wrestled for the heavyweight title here. And lo and behold, never car accident. And mind you, none of these have been my fault. This one was actually worse by a lot. I came up over a hill. I was meeting my girlfriend's parents for the first time, so I was excited. Came up over a hill. There's this dude backing his truck up into his driveway, blocking off both lanes of traffic. There's nowhere for me to go, nowhere for him to go. It's dark, wet. Uh, Next thing I know, I'm waking up. My leg is flopping around because my right femur is broken. My ribs are broken. My nose is broken. Concussion, glass embedded in my hand, shredded it. Glass in my forehead. All just glass everywhere. A lot of blood. And they rushed me to, I think it's Eastern. They originally rushed me to Reading and Fairview. Set my leg in traction, and then they rushed me for surgery to fix my legs. It was just the femur was snapped right in half. Thickest bone, strongest bone in your body just snapped in half. So I ended up having a titanium rod in my leg, and it ended up being very frustrating because I thought I was going to be back in wrestling in a year. I even cut a video about it at the very first Limitless Wrestling show. That I
Oh
was,
wow! So you worked with Randy
yeah,
Cabot Jr.
yeah.
You were helping him out and starting that early, and I mean, what a promotion! So you were there, you wrote a video, and then yeah, things didn't happen the way they turned out.
Well, I was excited because I wanted to be part of Limitless Wrestling, and unfortunately, I got hurt before it started. Um, and so I cut a video after a show. I was talking with Randy, and with the hopes that maybe everything would go smoothly and maybe we could do something. We didn't know. We didn't know how things were going to turn out.
But
But I
keep the
got to
door
watch.
open. Yes.
But I got to watch what all the kids, young guys, were doing with Limitless. And I thought that was super exciting. And then a year goes by, and I'm just having nothing but problems with the metal in my body. Three of the four titanium nails broke. They used a size too small for a guy who was pushing about 280 pounds before the accident. And so those titanium nails, they're not meant for a lot of stress and impact. And I was still trying to be active. They broke. They had to do another surgery. So now there's two major surgeries on my leg. Now I'm down for more time. But the new nails they put in were rubbing against the skin by my knee, and the bone still actually hadn't healed. There was a gap in between the bone. The only thing holding my leg together was the titanium. This is over a year later. So now, at year two, they have to do a third surgery. They remove the pins that are down by my kneecap so they can increase my mobility and take some pain away. And again, I still have a titanium rod in my femur, but it's still not healing. It's very delayed. It was actually abnormal how slow the healing was. Like I was beginning to panic a little bit because I'm like, is this bone ever going to heal? That's like worrisome stuff right there. They did a final fourth surgery, and this actually fixed my problems. They took the rod out of my leg, and then it's strapped to the side of my femur now, like scaffolding.
Okay.
So I've had four major surgeries from basically my hip down to my knee, where they've cut my leg open multiple times, like a long scar. It looks like somebody scooped out parts of my leg with an ice cream scooper. It's gross.
Not a
And
fun time at all. Wow, hell and back. Talk about it. And I mean, I don't. I mean, that injury is worse than anything you told me that happened. Going to Iraq 3 times.
this was worse than any of my military injuries. But I was finally able to come back to wrestling. But I was worried that I was going to suck. And so I was like, there was a gimmick called Mason X at the time that if a guy didn't show up, or if they needed a filler character, somebody would throw on the mask, they'd throw on the jumpsuit, he'd come out to the Halloween theme music, he'd do a little dance, look stupid, but he filled the spot. I was like, well, no one cares about this character, so if I suck, which I very well could have, hadn't wrestled in years at that point, it wasn't going to affect the legacy of Sean Killian, because really no one was going to know it was me, except for a few of the boys, and they were going to hold it against me.
Brilliant move. I actually was just talking to someone the other day that was wanting to do a show, but they were like kind of hesitant just on the whole show in itself. And I was like, well, don't go as yourself. Work a match character. And this way, well, if the show sucks, guess what? Nobody will know it's you. If it's
Oh
a
my God,
success,
exactly.
if it's
Yeah.
a success, guess what? Now you say it's you, and everybody knows that you can work a different role that nobody will know. It's a win-win scenario. But yeah, that is a brilliant game plan, and it
But
looked like it worked out for you.
yeah, the irony was that one, I really enjoyed it, but I told myself if I was going to do this, well, I'll do a darker interpretation of the character. I'm a huge fan of horror, but there was
Looking
no
ass.
way I was going to be able to get a custom mask from any mask maker in a timely fashion or gear for this. So I did the next best thing. I made my own. I messed around with. Bought an off the shelf mask, really retooled it. I made my own canvas and burlap vest, everything, and changed everything about the character. And people start chanting, "Mason's going to kill you." Mind you, this character that was dancing before.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, crap, I guess this is going to work. And I decided to stick with it and made him meaner and darker until injury struck again. I was wrestling this very big guy, Aftershock Adam Ricker. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but him and I were both 300 plus pound behemoths even then. And we both locked up really hard. And mind you, I had spent so much time training to the point of overtraining just because I was excited to get back in the ring.
Yeah.
I've been wrestling for several months again at this point. And then I didn't have enough warm up time for this match. I'm older. And when we lock up, I just feel like somebody had ripped my calf in half, my left calf. What had ended up happening is I had torn like 80% of my calf right off the bone on that left side. It was gross. And I did the stupid thing and kept wrestling. We had a big storyline. Like I finished up that match, granted, barely. And then we had a big storyline coming up like a month later, and I ended up taping my calf very heavily, and against my girlfriend's wishes, against family's wishes, I wrestled just because it was that important to me. In hindsight, maybe not the best idea because my calf looks wrong even now. It never healed right.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I could get it with all the times that like you've had like momentum and shit has just been pulled from you like under a rug from an injury here and there. It's like at this point, let me just finish at least one of my things. um, but yeah, I mean, I can see that probably didn't go the best after that. Keep continuing to wrestle on an injury can only make one thing, make it worse.
Right. So after we did that storyline, I did take some time off to let it properly heal, and I got a fair bit of mobility back. And then, of course, COVID happened.
And yeah, that was just terrible. It was a really big hit on the independent scene. I watched a lot of people just kind of just sitting home. It was right before that WrestleMania weekend. Everybody I knew was heading out. They were all had a booking, and then all of a sudden, like everybody's home. Every show is canceled, at least here in Mass. in New England. You're from New England. I mean, I talked to a guy the other day that was from down south. They were able to actually still wrestle, and they were actually still able to go to school. New England, no, everything was pretty much shut down for that first year. And then the shows, the books, the tapings started, coming up and creeping in 21. So how'd you handle that? Now you got another kind of standstill.
So it came at the worst time because I had just opened with two of my buddies my own wrestling company, Matt and Muscle Professional Wrestling, with JP O'Reilly and Lights Out Lee Miller.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, we had our very first show the next month, COVID. I was like, this is got to be some sort of joke, and we couldn't run for a few years because um, it did such a hit on us financially because like a lot of our hours and and our personal lives
Yeah,
changed.
yeah. It ruined it ran rampant. A lot of people are still recovering today, and if they are lucky enough to recover, but a lot of people are still struggling, kind of because of, just it impacted multiple portions, not just obviously the wrestling, but it impacted everybody's personal lives that kind of funded that wrestling, kind of fueled that wrestling.
Right. And no one wanted to take the risk to even come to a show. A lot of fans didn't want to do it or didn't want to go for the hassle they would have to do to go to the show. So obviously there's less bookings for everybody. Um, and IWE had closed its doors. So that's one company down. Pro Wrestling Takeover Maine had closed its doors. For these companies closed for various reasons, but now there's even less companies that you can wrestle for, and there's COVID. So I focused mostly on mask making and trying to rehab some various injuries, and did make a comeback. Did a nice little short run in Vacation Land Pro Wrestling. Although there was a lot of drama at that company, I had some decent matches there that I liked. Got to work with a few people I enjoyed working with.
Yeah,
JP
yeah.
O'Reilly, Lee Edward Miller, a few others. And I remember one day I saw something that Luke was taping. He mentioned something about Kill City, and I'm like, "What the heck is Kill City?" And I saw this video of this beautiful woman getting slammed by this gigantic dude. And I had no idea who either person was. I had become kind of sheltered and distant from wrestling because
Yeah.
COVID, I'd become a little bit of a recluse. And I asked him, like, hey, dude, what's this all about? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's like a whole bunch of monsters and psychos fighting it out. He explained the concept to me. And I was like, that is wicked cool. I'm like, where are you doing it at? He's like, oh, yeah, we're filming down in Florida. And I was like, oh, all right. Wish I'd known or wish I could do it. He's like, why not? Why come down? I'll fly it down. I was like, what? And so that's how I kind of weaseled my way in as a last minute addition to Kill City.
And what a
Oh my!
show! I mean, and that fits your character to a T. I mean, you're a mass killer. um, but
It was
yeah,
a blast.
I started seeing that foot, and I was like, wow, this is something different. Now, granted, I like different wrestling. I do, I watch a lot of independent. I'm a big fan of Limitless. I'm a big fan of Randy Carver Jr. They always put on a great show. A lot of the main guys, I really like the talent that's out there. I've seen some Vacation Land Cup. There's a few others out there. Um, a lot have closed though, unfortunately, up there. But there is some great promotions. And like I do try to get up to Maine. It's about a 3.5 hour ride though. To Yarmouth shows for me, but all in 21 and some in 22. I sponsored a bunch of their shows. I went up there. I really got into it. Because what it was for me is being on the fan level when I saw the COVID happen. I started a YouTube channel and I started getting numbers and I started getting interactions and people started asking me and I was like, I'm starting to get a name for myself. So I said, I always wanted to do a podcast with the indie guys, the guys that I was watching down the street, the guys that, were the next town over. Get some eyes and ears on these people. They're great wrestlers. They entertain, once a month or whatever, but no one knows who the hell they are. So I started, bringing people on. I started running podcasts back in, 2021, about beginning of 21. And then I really got into the tapings, and Limitless was probably the one that really got me. Was the road? I don't know if you checked that out during the pandemic time, but they started being able to do shows out of the school, so I started being able to actually get to learn the talent. And then other schools opened up and started doing shows. So I started, running with this whole podcast thing and running, with the independent scene, checking out just promotion after promotion after promotion. And then once New England was covered, I started getting out to Jersey. I checked out Russell's Lab. I checked out, I went all the way as far as actually, I think, where did we go? We went to the XPW beginnings,
Oh,
that
nice.
rebirth show that they did in New York, which was very interesting. I got to see actually one of your guys on Brian Cage was there. He actually won the belt that night. And then I said Russell's Laboratory. We saw a bunch of talent. But I was always a fan of something different. Like I used to be a big fan of it, and I watched that No Peace Underground, Fear the Gay Agenda. It was like a club show, hardcore club show, um, and other kind of shows. So when I saw this Kill City, I have to say it just really kind of sparked my love of just wrestling again. Because for a while, I mean, I hate to say it, wrestling kind of gets monotonous, especially when there is, we have a lot of great talent in New England, but it is one New England talent pool, and no one's just signed specifically. So you end up seeing the same matches, the same guys in the course of 3 months. Sometimes like 20 times. Um, it gets a little redundant. So I do like to watch something different. IWTV is a great resource, but and then I saw, like I said, Kill City Cup, and it brought me to it. Kind of like I used to grow up watching like ICP wrestling and Stragglemania and like just crazy bizarre wrestling. You're like, what is this? Is this even wrestling still? Um, and it has this grimy grit to it, but it's also very well produced. And I'm a big horror fan myself. I love horror. I've written horror. I
Hell
put out
yeah.
short. I've I've written short videos. I've filmed short videos. I've always been a horror person. I too am a mask maker. I've made a lot of clown masks and creepy shit. Um, I used to be big into the creepy pasta lures, and I used to make masks and sell them on Etsy. People would buy, like my Slender Man mask and Killer Jack and all these other guys. And I can really appreciate the artistic qualities that people put into their time and care in this artist. But I'm a big horror fan, so I see something that's like blending that horror, blending that filmography with something else I love, the wrestling. It's just like, oh my god, this is a perfect match here.
It ended up being more than I ever thought it was. Because, like, when I got down there and I saw the Luke and them had worked and put together this elaborate set inside this like warehouse area. And the entrances and getting to do all that, it was very exciting. It was very character driven, and it actually reinvigorated my love for wrestling because I too it kind of was like, I don't know if I want to wrestle anymore because I've wrestled about as many people as I care to wrestle. I've got a lot of bumps on my bump card already written clean off, either because of car accidents or just having done this for so long. And I was like, there's nobody I really want to wrestle that I think is attainable at my level. And I was a family man at this point too. I had multiple kids, multiple injuries, a missus, and so I was starting to kind of back off, like quietly retiring. And then the Kill City thing happened, and I was just motivated and driven again for the creativity aspect. I sat in with Luke while we were watching other people do their filming segments, and he'd ask some input. I give some ideas, and I was just watching him, just fascinated. Rye, the ringmaster, that he was just so captivating as he was talking about each of us. And I got to see how they were doing the various camera angles and things, and I just found that to be so cool that you know I really want to help get another Kill City taping going. I think Luke's got some stuff planned. It's gonna be pretty exciting.
That'd be great. And I hope so. I mean, it's dynamite. It's just a great thing. I mean, I told him anything you need help with, anything you have questions, anything at all, just reach out. I'll help you any way I can. I'm pretty savvy on technology wise and such. But speaking of Luke, I mean, I'm a big fan of also speaking of wrestling. I'm a big fan of the competition. I watch Luke wrestling Chaotic and Maine and other promotions. How was it working with him? As him being like a director, kind of. Not your opponent or a tag partner. Now he's kind of like a little bit of a boss.
That part, working with him is actually really easy because creativity. Can't even speak tonight. Creatively, there we go. I know how to talk. I promise. Creatively, we actually mesh very well. Like we would sit there and we're having, I think it was like a Mike's Harvard. No, it was a Twisted Tea, and we're just bouncing ideas back and forth outside of his ring at his house. This is after we'd done that particular Kill City taping. This is like last summer, and we were just bouncing idea back and forth for like over an hour, working with him, coming up with ideas. Wicked easy. It's actually harder wrestling him because he's so good and he's in such great shape that keeping up with that man is hard, especially in
Yeah.
my current condition. It'd be different if it was like me 10 years ago. That would be exciting to wrestle him like that. But no, uh, taking his direction while we're filming, pretty easy. Wanted, kind of understood. The things I wish I'd done more is just present myself a little more like a monster during that particular taping. But in hindsight, 2020, we didn't know until we filmed it. Seen some, South Magic yourself down Florida at the time filming. You have all the people involved over again.
Yeah.
Getting just like
No, for
working with him,
sure.
wicked blast.
And I was, I mean, if you haven't seen, Kill City Cup, I'm gonna be posting all this stuff. Like I'm gonna be posting in the summary of this interview. I'm gonna post your links to, your pro wrestling T-shirt.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna post the links to, where you sell your masks and stuff like that. And I'm also gonna post a link to the Kill City Cup because a lot of people I don't know if they have seen it or not. But if you have seen it, I mean, what a tremendous cast on there. I mean, what a great bunch of people. There must have been some, I mean, you got people like even like Brian Cage, the Machine. I mean, oh look, there goes my wife's eyes now, batting. She's such a Brian Cage fan. It's the only wrestler she likes. I mentioned her name and her eyes just lit. I swear she was just sleeping a minute ago. But I'm telling you, you had all these great characters. There had to be some funny things. Anything funny happen behind the scenes? Anything
Oh,
noteworthy?
you know, there were a few funny things. Like some of the commentary, I was talking with April Hunter, when we were going over some of the ideas for the match we were doing with Leon the Waste, Bones, and her, and this little person. I forget his name, but I feel bad for that. They were going to have it where he would headbutt me in the nuts, and I told her, because I had grabbed her hair earlier in our segment, as if I was going to really destroy her. And I told her, why don't you spit on me after? It would be a good thing. She thought that was like crazy that I would tell her to do that, but I was like, I just wanted to get the moment and the pop from it because I thought it would look good, and she was such a pro. Working with her, Leon was a blast. The young kid Bones was a blast. And just the conversations, just hearing some of these guys' funny stories. I really feel bad I can't remember them all. The whole day was a blur. There were these two really pretty girls that came, and then they just like ghosted. I was like, I forget what role they were supposed to have, but it seemed like they just up and ghosted because, like, I don't know, it seemed like
And so
they
all this was done, and you said in one day.
we filmed multiple segments in one day when I was there. The stuff with Jimmy Jacobs, the stuff with Brian Cage, Miss Markova there, April Hunter, myself. I know those were all done the same day. There's a few others. I think Seidel's was done that day too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Maxwell Chicago. Yeah, we definitely did stuff with Maxwell Chicago because little known fact, when he's hung up by Jimmy Jacobs, heck, I'm the one holding the rope, so he's dangling from it. You just can't see me. I'm off camera for it, but yeah, I'm the one reason why he's not like dropping headfirst on the floor.
You saved him there. Saved him there.
Well, they need somebody big and heavy to hold him up, and well, I'm heavy, so it worked. No, everybody was a real charm to work with. Uh, can't say enough good things about that cast and crew.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Just
saying. Like
can't.
the cast and crew of that show, and it's more than just a show; it's a movie. I keep saying, it's on. It's gotten movie reviews. It's up there. As a film. It has that kind of magic trait of a really great perfect cast. It's just like everybody blends together. Everybody's working together. Their energy is all just one big energy of Kill City Cop.
It
You don't
feels
see
like a
anybody
fun
kind of
B movie.
wearing off. Everybody's just in unison in what they're doing, in an non in a way that we can't really tell, but you can tell it if you're really paying attention. Everybody's working that same kind of show, and it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it
That's what
felt like
makes a
make
movie.
Right. It felt like we were making the funnest B movie possible. And I feel like it really shows it's a proof of concept of what Kill City can be. And I would love to see this become like an episodic thing. Maybe not necessarily like we drop an episode every week or anything. I don't know what Luke's plans are. And, you know, I'm not
No,
speaking
but
for
it's
him. I'm just
definitely
saying,
something. It's definitely something. I mean, obviously, you don't want to oversaturate anything good. But it's obviously something that's there that it's captivating audiences now. People are still learning about that. We're all gonna eventually want to be like, yo, we want more Kill City Cup. Um,
we're getting
it's
trying to
gonna
get them
get
to
to
drink
that
that
point.
Kill City lemonade. We're getting them on the lemonade, brother.
I mean, right now it's just getting everybody still to kind of know what it is, where they can see it, how they can see it. And it's just the internet's a big place. It's not easy. You can post a link and maybe 10 people see it. It's not always not every tweet, not every post is going to be a knockout post where thousands of people are responding. It's a slow grind out there. I didn't gain followers overnight. It took me years. Nothing is instant online. You have to really work it because there's a lot of people working similar things. Everybody's promoting themselves in some way. So you have to shine out differently, and that's the thing. Kill City Cup does that. It's just getting that name even more out there, getting it more out there, getting people to see the talent, getting people to follow talent, getting people to want it, want more. And that's just that's what I love to see. I love to see that kind of growth in the wrestling industry. I love to see promotions and stories like that flourish, kind of just seeing where they grow because it can go anywhere. Very well done, very well put together, but also left open ended where it's like, okay, this is something. It's like if this was a pilot episode, some network would be grabbing it right now, going, "Yep, we'll renew you for a whole season."
Right. You proved it. Go make us some more. I see Luke and he shops this around like he's pushing, he's working to get the name out there. It makes it very easy to be loyal to the dude and like push it hard too. It's like I feel like we all feel like we have a vested interest. A lot of us,
Yeah, I mean, I granted, I wasn't even probably, but I want to help the Jew get the name out there, man. I want to see the thing grow, just because, like I said,
mm,
he is that kind of go getter. You see him doing the grind work too. You see him with the post. I watch his posts. I follow him obviously on all social. I see all the tweets. I see him in the group showing off Kill City. I see him grinding on the internet daily. He's got groups out there. He's got all this going, so it makes you want to work harder too. If you want
right.
this guy to succeed.
Right. It makes this all look better if we do, and I just would love to see which way we can take this character or that character. That's what I want to see about the next City. Even more than the matches and the fight scenes and the violence, I want the character to see
Yeah, I
which
mean,
way,
it's
what
being
new
such a
character
storyline
choices.
driven wrestling. It's just like
Mm,
you get infatuated with the characters, and that's what I mean. To be honest with you, growing up as a little kid, yeah, the punching and the kicking was cool, but why do we like wrestling? It's because they're larger than life characters, things that couldn't exist in the real world. You didn't see an Andre the Giant walking down the street. No, you didn't see a King Kong Bundy walking down the street.
right.
And even in the '90s, when things got wonky, with the characters kind of being, you had Max Moon and stuff. You didn't see these people in the street. They were still something different. They were still part of a show. I mean, now wrestlers, I could walk down the street and see probably 5 independent guys and not even know they're independent. But growing up as a kid, in WWE and the WCW, you'd see these large than life characters, you'd get drawn to them, and that's what would keep you watching. And that's kind of what the Kill City. You do fall in love with these characters. They all got names. They got even if they were somebody else elsewhere, they're now a new person here.
Right. Like Paul Connor, wicked awesome talent, part of competition. But Zip Monk, I mean, the look is so friggin' cool, and he's so good at whatever he does. Really,
He's
he
amazing. Like I
truly
said, I'm a
is.
big competition fan. I watch them, like I said, chaotic everywhere. I actually am a big Paul Connor fan. I got all three colors of his Catch a Body shirt here. Um, but he's another guy that came back from injury and kind of bam right back to it. And I remember him getting injured not too long ago. Right after
I
the
know that
pandemic.
sucks. That sucks.
And then he came back not too long ago, just in beast mode. And it's great seeing it, and it's great seeing him as a different character because I have seen him, in the tag team scene for so long, but seeing him play someone in a totally different role was like, wow,
What
you
a lot of
know.
people don't realize either is like he's so much better than a lot of people realize, but he's also so much better than he realizes. Like when me and Luke were watching, we were talking about like you could really realize it, and it's almost like if he would just let himself go, like it just you know.
You
But
could really, yeah, you could really dive into that character and take it to the next level. And that's the thing, like any of these people can take their characters to the next level because it's almost a part of them. It is like some secret part of them, rather. Even if they don't want to admit it and just let it all out, it's like, bam,
well,
you know.
Bones, he was another character for Kill City that just really enthralled me. Like I enjoyed working with him, and I found his mannerisms very unique, and it was just very fun. Along with our queen of Kill City, Aurora, you know, there was more story I want to hear told about that particular character. You know, I want to hear more about how she came to know, Mr. Kill of Killcore. I want to know what her plans are. You know, that's the stuff I want to see in this, as we grow, hopefully one day.
And that's the thing with it being like, not just a regular wrestling show, being more of like a movie. You can start doing prequels and, wondering why this was that way and why that was this way. You can do anything. I mean, look what they did with like Star Wars. I mean, go back years and pretend, this is how it all began, in the 80s or whenever. You can do so much. There's so much cinematic stuff you can do with it. It's just incredible.
I
The
still want to do a prequel of Mason X breaking out of Asylum 666, where
see,
he's supposedly from in Kill City. I would love to do a sequel or prequel. I mean, where he breaks out of it. Maybe Queen Aurora frees him from the asylum, brings him into Kill City, so that way he can be part of the tournament. Could be something like that. If I
that's
had
what
a
I'm talking about. Like there was like like even like as a kid, there was a game that came out. I remember for like N64 or something. It was a wrestling game with WWE guys, but they made it into a movie. So like you were the Undertaker or somebody, but you had to like go through a movie and do like like Kane was trying to kill you. I forget the storyline, but like it was wrestlers outside of wrestling, and like that's kind of what this is like. You can bring that outside and be like, wow. And then the match kind of ties in back to the story, and this is why it's happening. But the real magic is off outside the ring, and it's kind of just the wrestling's almost accompanying the the movie, just making it part of it. It's really wild to see, and it's like I said, it's magical to see because you don't see it every day. It's not something that's just common in the industry anywhere, really, honestly. You
you
don't
know
even see it
what
in
happened.
WWE. You don't see it in AEW. You don't see it, even in Limitless, Beyond, any of them. It's just regular. It's wrestling. Yes, it's great, but it's not a movie. It's not a story to be told in this degree. Yes, stories are told here and there, and great stories are told, but not to this degree of amount of stories and amount of detail that are within these stories and the characters, the backstories. Like you said, you could go into all these subcategories of movies and of backstories. It's just wild to think about.
It really is. And what's going to happen too, and this is going to be the real proof in the pudding that what Luke did with Kill City is really awesome, is you're going to start people doing knockoffs of it probably. You just, when someone sees a good concept, you just know people are going to jump on the bandwagon. But I hope people see that Kill City did it first. You
Oh
know,
yeah, of course you're gonna see knockoffs of it. I mean, and you're probably gonna see it. I mean, it'll be hard to do because of the cast you got, but I mean, who knows? But the thing is the proof is in the pudding, and obviously, YouTube timestamps everything. So if you got your video up first, it's yours first. So
I know. That's why I'm kind of glad. It's just I feel people are going to jump on the concept, but
they will though because it is
yeah,
it's such a new concept. But again, it's not a concept that's easily pulled off. You have to have a different mind than just a wrestling promoter. You got to figure out, okay, well now we're not doing matches. Now we're doing cinematics. How is this going to look on video? Wait a minute, what's this angle? Now we need good video footage angles. We don't, it's a whole different game. And then if you add in effects, After Effects, editing, it's a lot of work. I mean, I've done horror movies. Just editing alone can take a week.
oh,
You
that's the truth.
For a
Just some of the
40-minute
stuff.
short film, just editing can take a week. Never mind the after effects that need to go in. Never mind the sound, just the editing of the footage. And so there's a lot of work into it. So yes, I would say copycats will come, but they're gonna have to put a lot of work, and they're gonna have to be dedicated and have a heart bigger than Luke because damn, and that's not gonna be easy because he's all in.
I was saying them trying to match his motivation alone is going to be tough.
It's not gonna happen. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it just won't happen. And I mean, I said, I mean, I see a lot of wrestling. I'm subscribed to a lot of wrestling, but there's something about Kill City. Just like I said, when I started seeing it cross my feet, I had to get into it. I made my wife even watch it by bribing her by telling her Brian Cage was in it, which she was. I wasn't lying, but it got her to watch the whole movie too, and she really loved it too. And she likes brutality. She likes wrestling, but I can't get her to watch mainstream wrestling or much wrestling. Just Brian Cage wrestling, but different stuff.
Hey, he's good. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, he's awesome. You know, here's one thing you could say: people may copy Luke's concept, but they'll never copy his execution.
No, not at all. Not at all. Um, and like I said, you gotta look at that innovation and that kind of like something different because a lot of things have changed after the pandemic in the way shows are run and the way everything is kind of done. I've seen things go different directions. I've seen things go belly up. I've seen people stop caring, but like the whole thing about Kill City Cup is it's like I said, it's just such a fresh concept. I can't just stop like saying that just because I know I sound stupid saying it, but it's just something so different out there right now. It's just really hard to explain. Like I said, I've seen crazy wrestling. I've seen, like I said, I've seen the No Peace Underground. They're fighting in a club kind of style atmosphere. Great wrestling show, really hardcore. There's glass everywhere. I've been to GCW down in the boardwalk. Great show. A lot of hardcore matches, glass everywhere. Um, and I've been to plenty of death matches. I've seen death matches in Beyond Wrestling, Slade's a Madman, um, taking spikes to the head. But just nothing that besides the wrestling, that's just wrestling. I've never seen something that blended the wrestling with the horror and the combat. It's beyond wrestling. You feel like you're almost watching like what was that Hogan movie with Zeus
Oh, no holds barred.
yeah, it's almost like that no holds barred feel. Like yeah, you're wrestling, but you're not really wrestling. Like it's a you might die in this. You know what I mean? Like it's different. It's a different feel of wrestling. And it's kind of like that, you got this kind of like grind to it, and it's just very unique for me. Like I said, I enjoyed immensely, and it's glad to hear that the people that were on the show enjoyed immensely too, because sometimes you get that, well, how was the show? I didn't like it. Oh, well, you were so good. I still didn't like it. It's like, oh, okay.
I don't know that anybody that didn't enjoy it in at least some aspect. All the ones that I still talk to on a fairly regular basis, we're all thirsting for more, to do
Yeah, I mean,
more.
I've only heard only good things about this, and I've only heard only good things about what Luke, is doing and has done with it. Like I said, I watched the post. I'm part of some of the groups, and just seeing its growth is great. Seeing everybody's input is great. I like how, I really one thing that really sticks out is how Luke kind of like asks for people's input. He'll actually ask, hey, what do you think? Who should I be looking at? Who, he's actually asking people, and a lot of people are too proud to ask questions.
No, he's asked for critiques. Like, yeah, he would love the compliments, but he also wants to know what we could have done better. So that way, when we do the next bit, it's going to be even better, So I
Yeah,
like,
because I mean, deep down, everybody knows nothing's perfect. As much as
yeah.
we want it to be and say it is, but to have that kind of knowledge is great because then you know what not to do. But like I said, even that, some people are still too proud to ask for that, and they'll kind of just guess what they did wrong. But he's actually like asking, "What can we do to improve? Where should I be
And he
looking at?"
really puts himself out there. He's like, hey, have you seen it yet? And like, he'll do it on people's posts publicly and stuff. Which, I mean, I'm a little bit more of an introvert sometimes. So like, that has been one of the things that has also held me back in my career is I wasn't always somebody who's assertive and would go out there and chase down bookings or chase down feedback. Whereas he will chase it down.
I mean, not for nothing, but I mean, I saw a post say that he got it all the way to Chris Van Fleet's messengers, and he actually answered them back. I mean,
I saw that
that's
like an
pretty impressive because now you're hitting the guy that's interviewing AEW guys and talking on the mainstream course now watching your product. That's huge. That's a huge pickup right there. Just getting that kind of word out there, whether the guy, follows it to the end or not, at least he knows it exists now.
right.
And he acknowledged that it existed. A lot of the higher ups in the wrestling world will look at it cool, maybe give a thumbs up, never write back, but he actually was like, oh, that's cool, or something to that extent. I don't know the exact post, but he responded to it, which is great. And that's exciting for like everybody that's even on that show because any one of these could get picked to be interviewed now. Who knows where that could go? That's even more limelight for it, and it's just great seeing how everybody is, and hearing your story and hearing how you had your ups, your downs, definitely downs, but you've had a lot of ups, and now you've kind of gotten into this role where you're very comfortable, being the character that you are. You can bring that horror creativity to the kind of product, and it also kind of blends in, with you're up, selling masks and doing the other horror stuff. So it's kind of like the perfect end scenario, for the wrestling career.
It really is. I'm very comfortable with everything. Um, you know, if one thing though with it is like there's a lot of times I just don't think I could do something anymore. I'll put myself down and Luke will actually be like, "No, dude, you can do that." And I'm like, I'll be goddamned. He's right 9 times out of 10. Shit, I really could do that. It's like, so he pulls it out of me. So
Sometimes we just need that extra encouragement,
yeah,
I mean, because we all doubt ourselves at times, and that can be the number one enemy, honestly, is our own doubt.
yeah, self doubt's been there a lot after the accident.
Oh,
Just
I'm
fighting with
sure, I'm
that.
sure, But like I said, you look great in this film, and I
Thank
thank you
you.
again for coming on the show. Really, it's been a pleasure having you on, talking your story, and again, thanks for serving our country. That's amazing too.
It was my pleasure and honor. I really appreciate it for being on the show, and it was my pleasure and honor to serve my country. 9 times out of 10, honestly, it was a good time. Yeah, there were some bad times in Iraq, but most of my military service, I look back very fondly. I'm proud of it. I have no regrets with it.
Well, that's great to hear. That's really great to hear. And keep kicking ass out there. We're gonna obviously we're gonna stay, in contact with everybody and kind of see where this is
Sweet.
all heading, because there's gonna be, like you said, probably something in the works sooner than later. I just can't see this, with the momentum this got and the amount of traction it's picking up. I can't see it just, not going anywhere.
It's gonna go somewhere. I feel it in my bones, so it'll go
Great,
somewhere.
great. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great weekend.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Wow, folks. Wow, what a great episode. I mean, what a guy. What a story. I mean, the ups and downs, incredible, and he overcame all of that, through the tours, through the injuries, and now he's in the Kill City Cup. And you got to check that out. Like I said, I'm going to add that to the summary, and as well as all the places you can find Mason X's merch and custom masks and all the great stuff. Thank you everybody for listening. Go watch Kill City Cup.